violent, expensive, almost impossible to believe. This is aviation's most dangerous frontier, and it was all caught on camera. June 3, 1973, Le Bourget Airport, Paris. 250,000 spectators watched in real time as history's most dramatic aviation disaster unfolded in seconds. The Tupolev Tu-144, the Soviet Union's answer to the Concorde, was performing a demonstration flight during the Paris Air Show. Soviet test pilot Captain Mikhail Kozlov was determined to outperform the British-French supersonic aircraft that had just completed its own flight. "Just wait until you see us fly, then you'll see something," Kozlov had reportedly stated. As the Tu-144 climbed at full throttle, it reached an extreme nose-high angle. The aircraft stalled at low altitude. In attempting to recover, Kozlov pushed the nose down hard, entering a steep dive. He then pulled back with full engine power, trying to regain control. But the stress was too much. The airframe couldn't withstand the forces. The canards, small control surfaces on the nose, disintegrated and struck the left wing. The entire aircraft broke apart in mid-air at 2,000 feet. All 6 crew members were killed, along with 8 people on the ground. 3 children were among those killed, and 60 people received severe injuries. The crash was captured from multiple angles, broadcast live to the world. It was the price of competition. It was the price of pushing too hard. September 4th, 1952. Farnborough Air Show, England. Another air show. Another demonstration gone catastrophically wrong. The de Havilland DH-110 was a prototype jet fighter being shown to spectators. As it screamed across the airfield at transonic speeds during a low-level pass, structural failure occurred. The aircraft simply disintegrated in mid-air, pieces falling onto the crowds below. The wreckage killed 28 people on the ground. The pilot and test observer aboard were killed instantly. It was the deadliest aviation accident at an air show in British history. The wreckage smoldered as rescue workers pulled bodies from the debris. The demonstration was meant to showcase engineering excellence. It became a tomb.
A split-second disaster in slow motion.
April 14th, 2015. Just off the coast of Florida. SpaceX attempted something that had never been done before, landing a rocket booster on an autonomous floating platform in the middle of the ocean. The Falcon 9 first stage completed its ascent perfectly. As it turned around for its descent, cameras aboard captured the approach. The booster descended through the clouds, engines firing precisely. Everything appeared to be working. Then, at the last second, something went wrong. The booster's landing legs failed to deploy properly. The rocket came down hard without them. Moments after touchdown, the weakened leg collapsed beneath the rocket's weight, sending the booster crashing onto its side before the remaining fuel exploded in a spectacular fireball. The platform survived. The rocket did not. But SpaceX learned, and months later they would land a booster successfully. What failed this day led to revolution. What crashed became the foundation for success. May 10th, 1967. A rocket-powered experimental aircraft descends toward Edwards Air Force Base in California. The M2F2 was an experimental lifting body, a radical aircraft design with no wings, shaped like a teardrop. Test pilot Bruce Peterson was bringing it in for landing after a hypersonic flight. Everything seemed routine until the final approach. Peterson was flying a steep glide path when the left landing skid touched the ground first, violently. The aircraft cartwheeled across the desert floor, tumbling end over end in a cloud of dust. Peterson was ejected from the cockpit, suffering massive injuries. He spent weeks in a coma. When he awoke, he was blind and partially paralyzed, but he didn't give up. After years of rehabilitation, Peterson returned to flying. He eventually flew again, including a return flight in an M2F 2 years later. His crash was catastrophic. His recovery was a miracle.
And to roll wildly just above the runway. The craft was destroyed. It hit the ground at 200 miles per hour and rolled 15 times. The pilot survived, but the lifting body program was severely set back.
December 10th, 1963. Edwards Air Force Base, California. Chuck Yeager, the man who broke the sound barrier, the test pilot's test pilot, was flying an experimental rocket-powered variant of the F-104 Starfighter. The goal? To reach 107,000 feet and set an altitude record. At 104,000 feet, something went wrong. The engine flamed out. The aircraft went out of control. Yeager attempted to regain control of the tumbling aircraft, but at that altitude there was no air to push against. The Starfighter was spinning in the vacuum of near space. He ejected at 104,000 feet, but his ejection seat wasn't designed for that altitude. He found himself spinning uncontrollably, falling through the atmosphere at terminal velocity without oxygen. Yeager managed to regain consciousness and deploy his parachute manually. He fell 40,000 feet before the chute opened. He survived with severe injuries to his face, but lived. It was one of the most dramatic near-death experiences of a test pilot's career, and Yeager survived to tell about it. August 25th, 1995, Edwards Air Force Base, California. The Rockwell X-31 was an experimental fighter designed to explore extreme maneuverability at high angles of attack. During a test flight, the aircraft was pushed beyond its design envelope. The pilot, feeling the aircraft become unstable, attempted recovery, but the X-31's control surfaces became saturated. The aircraft entered a deep stall, a situation where it has no more control authority. The aircraft tumbled from the sky. The pilot ejected, but only barely, ejecting seconds before impact. The X-31 cratered into the desert floor, destroyed. The pilot survived with serious injuries. It was another reminder. There's always a limit. Push too far and the machine breaks.
The pilot's out of the seat and the chute is good. Copy.
February 21st, 1961. Dunsfold, England. The Hawker P-1127 was an experimental vertical takeoff aircraft, a radical design that could take off like a helicopter and fly like a jet fighter. During a test flight, pilot Bill Bedford was demonstrating the aircraft's VTOL capabilities when structural failure occurred. The fuselage experienced catastrophic failure during a hover maneuver. The aircraft tumbled to the ground. Bedford ejected seconds before impact. He survived with serious injuries. But the aircraft's innovative design would eventually lead to the Harrier jet fighter, one of history's most iconic warbirds. What crashed became a foundation for revolution.
Bad luck for Britain.
October 31st, 2014, Mojave Desert, California. Virgin Galactic's Spaceship Two was on its fourth powered test flight, pushing toward the edge of space with the dream of commercial space tourism. At approximately Mach 1 and 45,000 feet, during powered ascent, co-pilot Michael Alsbury unlocked the commercial space plane's re-entry feathering system too early. The feathering system, designed to deploy only after reaching much higher speeds, was never meant to unlock at subsonic speeds. The tail booms pivoted upward. Aerodynamic forces tore the vehicle apart within seconds. The accident was attributed to scaled composites, failure to mitigate the risk of a single human error overriding safety locks on the feathering mechanism. Co-pilot Michael Alsbury was killed. Pilot Peter Siebold survived, seriously injured. It was a catastrophic failure of design. A system that should have prevented human error instead allowed one mistake to be fatal. April 23, 1993, Edwards Air Force Base, California. The YF-22A was one of two prototypes competing for the Advanced Tactical Fighter contract. This aircraft represented the cutting edge of stealth fighter technology. During a test flight, pilot Tom Morgenfeld was performing a planned go-round using afterburner with thrust, vectoring activated, when the aircraft entered a pitch oscillation at 175 knots and an altitude of 40 feet. Pilot-induced oscillation, or PIO, is one of aviation's most dangerous phenomena. The pilot makes a correction, but the aircraft responds unpredictably. The pilot corrects again. The oscillations grow worse. The YF-22 was especially prone to PIO because of its advanced flight control system and thrust vectoring. No one predicted it would happen during this phase of flight. Morgenfeld fought for control as the aircraft pitched violently, but he couldn't overcome the oscillation.
After skidding in flames for more than a mile, Morgenfeld walks away unharmed.
Every aircraft you've seen in this countdown pushed the limits of technology, and every lesson learned helped make future aviation safer. If you're enjoying the video, be sure to like and subscribe for more incredible stories from aviation history. Now, let's continue. February 23, 2008. Andersen Air Force Base, Guam. The B-2 Spirit is one of the most expensive military aircraft ever built. A $2.2 billion stealth bomber with a perfect safety record. On this February afternoon, B-2 Spirit of Kansas crashed seconds after takeoff from Andersen. The two pilots aboard were Major Ryan Link and Captain Justin Grieve. Moisture in the aircraft's port transducer units during air data calibration distorted the information in the bomber's air data system, causing the flight control computers to calculate an inaccurate airspeed and a negative angle of attack upon takeoff. The computer thought the aircraft was flying backwards. It commanded an uncommanded 30-degree pitch-up. The B-2 stalled seconds after liftoff. As one of its wingtips made contact with the ground, the crew ejected and survived. The pilot received minor injuries, and the co-pilot received a spinal compression fracture during ejection. The aircraft was destroyed, a total loss worth $1.4 billion. It remains the most expensive aviation accident in history. All for hidden moisture in a sensor. All for a communications failure about a simple pre-flight procedure. February 2, 1989. Linköping, Sweden. The JAS-39 Gripen was Sweden's cutting-edge new fighter aircraft. The prototype, designated 39-1, had already completed 5 successful test flights. On its sixth flight, test pilot Lars Rodeström was attempting to land the aircraft when disaster struck. The Gripen's revolutionary fly-by-wire flight control system, designed to keep the aircraft stable through advanced software, began to fail. Pilot-induced oscillation combined with extremely gusty winds sent the aircraft into uncontrollable pitch oscillations. Rodeström fought the control column as the aircraft tumbled through the sky, but the software-controlled systems wouldn't respond to his inputs. The aircraft was becoming a machine he couldn't control. The Gripen crashed spectacularly, recorded in famous footage by the Swedish television news program Aktuellt, one of aviation's most dramatic crashes caught on live TV. Rodeström remained in the tumbling aircraft and escaped with a fractured elbow and some minor injuries. But the crash revealed a catastrophic flaw. December 29, 1989, Soviet Union. The Yakovlev Yak-141, codenamed Freestyle by NATO, was the Soviet Union's answer to the Harrier, a supersonic vertical takeoff fighter equipped with one massive vectoring turbofan engine and 2 lift jets. Test pilot Sinitsyn made the first hovering flight on December 29, 1989, flying prototype 48-3, a milestone moment in Soviet aviation. The aircraft performed brilliantly. The Freestyle achieved a maximum speed of 1.7 Mach, and maneuverability was repeatedly claimed to be almost as good as that of the MiG-29. But the most dangerous phase